Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Witches Movie Coven. Tonight, our Miss Patty is filming. She is, of course, the busiest witch in all of Hollywood, so she is not here tonight. And instead, we are going to go on without her. Our heart will go on to continue those Titanic jokes from last week. I am one of your hosts. My first name is Richard-Lael. Richard-Lael is one name, not two. If I were just Richard, I'd be a. That's right. So I want you to grab your goats, grab your wands, grab your drinks, and then I'm going to introduce our co-hosts. Let's start with the lovely Heather Greene.
Oh.
Heather Greene.
Hi, I am Heather Greene, as Richard-Lael has said. I am the author of Lights, Camera, Witchcraft, a critical guide to a critical history, I'll grab the book here, of witches in America film and television. I am also an editor at Llewellyn Worldwide and a journalist covering all things witchy and occult in media. And I'm one of the coven members here.
That is so true.
The best rule yet.
Speaking of one of our coven members, let's go over to the newly fringed Courtney Buckley.
That's me and my bangs. I'm Courtney Buckley. My Black Phillip is over here. And I'm Ghostbait on Scared and Alone and another one of the coven members. I'm so happy to be here, and we'll see how excited I am to talk about what we have to talk about today. That remains to be seen.
It is. I cannot wait to see what you have to say. With that, we have the Mr. Lustrious Lux himself, Mr. Jason Mankey.
I write books and stuff. I'm a member of this coven. Right now, I'm probably watching too much soccer because it's Euro Cup and Copa America, which means nothing in the witchcraft world. People just go, "You're crazy. Why are you doing this? Go do something else." But here we are. So happy to be here tonight. Now, this is a fun movie.
This is definitely, this is definitely a movie. It's
kind of fun.
Well, you know what? There are some good. We'll get there. We'll get there. So tonight, for those of you who do not know what movie that we are watching, you certainly did not do your homework. Tonight's film, we are watching The Secret of Roan Inish. This film is from 1994. I'm not going to get too much in the history because that goes to the lovely Heather Greene to talk a little bit about the witchcraft and the history of it. However, normally, Patty would do a little banter here, and then she would toss to me, and I would give an unbiased movie synopsis. And tonight is no different. She's not here, but my unbiased movie synopsis is no different. So this is a magical story.
Holy crap.
So this is a magical story about a young girl who ends up by going to live with her Irish grandparents, who are fisher folk. And for whatever reason, as they tell her the story of her history and how she came to live with them, they put a baby in a bassinet, which is swept out to sea. And even though they have two boats, they decide to not go after the baby. They just stand on the shore and scream that the baby is floating away. And then, of course, throughout the course of this film, you find out that there is this folklore legend. It is on the British Isles. So it's in Scotland, it's in Ireland predominantly, the Silkies. And they believe that these sea puppies shed their skin, and whoever can control the skin of this Silky can control them. And it turns out that her brother is one of them. I think I didn't actually end up by finishing the film because it took me 4 times to even watch that far. However, I'm going to save any opinions. I'm going to say, I know that it's her brother. I know that somehow there was a beautiful girl she was the brother of the man who played she's the sister of the man who played whatever. Never mind. Heather Greene.
Let's just pass it on, shall we? Well, okay, so I'm going to give you 5 most important things to think about or to know about this movie. This was not in my book because there are no witches in it, although there's some things in it, themes that I'm going to mention that might have interest to witchy folk. So the 5 things, if I can find, because I wrote them down, there they are. See, too many papers on my desk. First, I want to talk about the original story, then the director, John Sayles. Then 3, it almost wasn't finished. And why? And 4, just like Richard-Lael, didn't finish. Number 4, premiere. It's premiere success, and then the themes that I was just mentioning. So let's start with the original story. It was originally written by a Canadian woman. She was Canadian born and then lived most of her life in Wales, Rosalie K. Fry. And it was originally called The Child of the Western Isles, and it was written in 1957. It then was repackaged and retitled to The Secret of Roan Inish. It originally took place in Scotland. When John Sayles got a hold of it and wrote the script, they renamed it to Roan Inish, and he moved it to Ireland. But most of it, and I haven't read the original, most of it pretty much is the same from what I've read. What I've heard. So let's go on to John Sayles. Who is he? He's a director, first film in 1979. He's done a lot of writing, a lot of script writing, and he has done a bunch of films. He's kind of in what they call the Corman school, Roger Corman, sort of low budget films that have a lot of storytelling and various things. He's an independent filmmaker, so he has a lot of control. He wrote, directed, and edited this film, along with obviously a lot of other people, but he did not hand it off. Okay. So he's very much in control. That's what he likes. And so some films that you might know, he wrote the Spiderwick Chronicles. I was just picking a few out. He's known for the 1997 movie directed Men with Guns, Passion Fish in 92, 8 Men Out, a baseball movie from the 80s, 1988, Lone Star in 96, and a group of others. So those are just a few that I'm throwing out. So you probably know him in one form or another. He did write a lot of films that you would have heard of as well. So that's who John Sayles is. Now, this film was almost never made. Now, John Sayles, as an independent filmmaker, he doesn't have big budgets. That's his thing. He's independent. He gets his money from various places. He funded a third of this film himself. And the other monies that he had weren't fully available. The contracts weren't fully signed after they had already started filmmaking. So they weren't even sure if they were going to have the money to be able to finish the film. And it finally came in halfway through. Then at some point during the film, one of the Irish workers, they filmed this in Ireland in a small village. One of the Irish workers who's working on the sets got drunk one night and burned half the sets down. So, wow. So there's that too. To that. He basically, after they woke up and everything was burned down or partially burned down, according to the story, all the locals pitched in to fix the sets. And then they continued on with many of the locals staying as part of the production and helping out to get this film done. And John Sayles was quoted as saying they kind of treated them at that point like they felt sorry for them. So they really got involved with the film and they really wanted to see it finished. So, and yes, as Jason Mankey put up in the chat, that he did a bunch of Bruce Springsteen films in the 80s. I think maybe in the 90s as well. I'm not a big Bruce Springsteen fan, so I ignored that part of it. Sorry, Jason, turn the light out.
Wow, it's like almost the 4th of July. Like, how can you be bragging on Springsteen?
You know what? I am with you on that, Heather. I will 100% back you up on this. And you know what? Not to sidetrack too much, but I'll tell you why I'm not a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. The music, okay, whatever. 80s, great. But you know what makes me laugh was sort of that back and forth that he had with Freddie Mercury. And Bruce Springsteen said, "What are you trying to do, Freddie? Trying to bring ballet into rock and roll?" And Freddie Mercury said, I certainly am.
This is gonna be a long hour tonight. That's all I know. It's gonna be a long hour.
Moving from back to Bruce Springsteen, writing our over to number 4. This movie, which has nothing to do with Bruce Springsteen other than John Sayles, it actually premiered in 1994 in Toronto, and it wound up being successful enough that it got introduced at the Sundance Film Festival, and that was his first film that was introduced there. And so that's how it got wider acclaim and was distributed internationally, and people know about it this in the 90s. And I actually did see it when it came out. So the themes, I want to talk about the themes, because regardless of if you like it or not like it, and John Sayles and all the various things I've talked about, there's this really nice theme about this. And I found a couple quotes when John Sayles himself spoke about these themes. This idea of getting back to your roots, getting back to nature, and bringing humanity back in line with a natural environment that's being and that those connections being destroyed by war, because this was right after the war, and industry and technology, this conflict is what he's getting at. And so what he said, and I have 2 quotes, and I just bear with me here. He said, like the oral traditions passed on generation to generation, these stories are hooked into the nature around you, who you are as a person, and what you need to know to survive. And I really love that idea that this story, the Selkies, whether you believe in that lore, the history of the grandparents and the ancestors and all this stuff is linked to who you are, and that the little girl's discovering that. And it's also linked to nature and the land. And I think there's a very pagan, witchy aspect of that. And his other quote that I really liked that really brought this back. Not the drunken guy. This is, hold on, different quote. She doesn't just find the magic. She doesn't just find the magic or the ring, she has to do the work. So this isn't just about the little girl finding some magic ring that allows her to open a gateway, sort of like the Narnia cabinet or the ring in Lord of the Rings. She finds the magic in the stories, in her history, and then in doing the work to bring it back, which is obviously bringing the shed, not chasing a little naked baby, but bringing back the sheds and the houses. So I think these are really beautiful. There's a beautiful theme running through this that really feels very pagan-y, and I think would really, it's not a witchy movie, but I think there's threads there. And of course it's linked to Selkies and the lore of that, which we all find fascinating, or many of us find fascinating anyway. So
absolutely,
that's it. The music was original and brings a beautiful and someone he worked with all the time, and it brings a nice ambiance to it, to all of wrapping all of that together.
Some of the songs were traditional. They were just arranged by the composer. So some of them actually go back quite a ways, which also, of course, the idea of the Fae goes back quite a ways to ancient paganisms. And those beliefs are really embedded in Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. This is not an over-exaggeration in a film. This is a part of these cultures. As my friend Christopher Hughes told me once, he goes, Jason, if you ever go back and look at the witch trials in Great Britain, you'll see that a lot of them never happened in parts of Scotland. They didn't happen in Ireland, and then they did not happen in Wales, because those were places where belief in the fairies was really, really strong. So they never blamed witches for anything. It was always the bad fairies. So sorry, just a tangent. I always loved that little story. I always thought that it was really interesting.
Have you ever been to West Hollywood on a Saturday night? I have seen some bad fairies.
Ching. Oh boy.
With that, Courtney, did you have anything you would like to talk about about this show, about this film?
Okay, so this film was unwatchable.
First of all, I wanted to ask you, Courtney Buckley, did you watch this film?
I tried really hard. It was unwatchable, physically unwatchable, because as I was trying to stream it, it kept buffering and then starting to play with no sound. So, Jason, don't take a deep breath yet. I took that as it was like self-defense. Like my own magic was so powerful that it knew that I couldn't sit through any more of it. So it just shut itself down in self-defense for me, the powerful witch. And so I got about halfway through. The scenery was beautiful. The music was beautiful. But it was very difficult to follow, I feel like, for me, because I wasn't engaged enough with it. And there was, I'm not going to say my quotes, obviously, but I did take notes. There was 2 notes that I had. One, and both notes I wrote in capital letters, so you'll have to imagine me screaming them. But why was the baby speedboating away in the ocean? And then I got hung up on the baby speedboating away in the ocean in the little cradle, because it's like they didn't even try.
And they're fishermen.
Right, and they rowed harder at other times in the movie than they did to catch the speedboating baby. So it was a lot. Also, I scream wrote, I am traumatized by the seal birthing the woman from its skin, because this was at a point where there was no sound, right? So it had buffered and then there was no sound. And then I was like, wow, that seal looks, because they had, like, the seals were so cute. I was like, that is an animatronic seal. That looks like a fake seal. Like, it's so obviously a fake seal. And then it like the skin started moving. I was like, what's happening? Oh my God, no. Like, it's not something that I needed to look at. And I enjoy and respect the story and the legend behind it and all of that. But it was just a lot. It was just a lot. And then I think at one point during the beginning of the movie, I said out loud, I feel personally victimized by the Christianity in this movie, because there was a lot of like references in the beginning, and I was like, okay, like, good for you, cool. But like it was like very heavy-handed, so I was lost.
I mean, it is Ireland, and it was right after the war. So,
well, sure, to each their own, and I fully believe that, to each their own. But also, when trying to become engaged in a movie that was already difficult enough to get engaged in, that was not the way for me to find my way through it. So
interesting.
I got about halfway through, and who knows? Did I like it or not? I don't know.
I have to say, is it just my connection? Oh, well, it might be mine. You know, it's hurricane season, so I don't know if you see me, but it is a torrential downpour outside. I can hear it pelting my house. So if I happen to go out, it is because the film gods do not want me to give you a review of the film. That's what I do.
We're having severe thunderstorms here too, so either it's going to be that I'm overcome with I can't talk about it anymore and I just have to go real fast, but I'll blame it on the thunderstorms either way. So
I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the audience reviews, some of the audience rankings. Now, this is view the film, enjoy the film, love the film. Most people do. I wanted to read a little bit. So Taylor S. 7 months ago says, 5 stars. Absolutely wonderful movie. Safe to watch with children on a warm family night. Beautiful scenery of Irish landscape of the seashores. Celtic music, down to earth, scenes and yet touch of a magic. Makes you believe in miracles, even if you're an adult who doesn't trust anyone in this world anymore. Tickled Pink, 5 stars. I don't know why more people haven't seen this movie. It has been a staple in my home for nearly 25 years. Now my grandkids love it. Even the 2-year-old requests it when I would have never guessed she could follow the storyline. There is something about this movie that will wash over you and soothe your bruises of the world. I often have it playing in the background while I'm doing other things. Artie B. Rockin', 4 years ago, 4 stars. I never heard of this John Sayles flick and was checking this out for my wife. I got very into it. I love true Irish culture and strength of island families. I like a lot of his movies, and this is right there with others I appreciated. Very good John Sayles flick, just pleasant positive movie with great Celtic music throughout for those that need an uplift through this CV-19 weirdness we must do.
Oh.
I'm not going to go on because all of the reviews online are glowing, and maybe it has to do with
the
beautiful Irish, the beautiful Irish landscaping, the brilliant acting of the young girl, and of course the naked baby with the Bob Ross hair. I mean, there are some positives. But how about what was that?
Excuse me. I found one star review, 1 out of 10 on IMDb. Warning, spoilers. It says nothing happened in all capital letters. I just finished watching this movie and immediately went online to see just how terrible the reviews were, only to see it had 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, upwards of 7 out of 10 on IMDb. Shocked by this, I filled out the required information just to write this one review. This film struck me as borderline unwatchable. Oh my God. The child acting is on par with the Phantom Menace. The little girl is cute, but good Lord, it was just embarrassing to watch. I kept telling myself it had to be intended as a children's movie, and I was being unfair to assess it as harshly as I was until the movie had been playing for about an hour and nothing had happened. The only event that had occurred, excluding the painfully boring exposition, was the little girl chasing the naked kid for 40 seconds or so, only to lose him in his little boat. I kept holding on, hoping anything would happen, but it never really did. This is literally how the movie ends. The little girl's family, for no reason, starts believing her about the little boy, so they go out in the storm to find him. They walk outside their newly repaired house, and the girl yells, "Look!" We then see the kid on the shore, and when he sees his sister, he tries to flee, perhaps horrified at his sister's acting ability. When he tries to get in his little boat, some seals, bear with me, come onto the shore. One seal chases him away from his boat, and the others push the boat into the water. The family captures him, and that's the happy ending? Does that not seem at best extremely dumb to anyone else? I can maybe buy someone liking the cultural overtones of the movie or even the occasional whimsy, but who in their right mind could truly say that they were entertained by this film? Maybe this movie just went over my head, but in order for me to enjoy a movie, I would need a few events to occur and maybe a plot or something. Also, that person created an account to write that.
I have to just jump in and say, Taya, I see you, and especially with the Grease 2 comment, because it isn't as good as Grease 2, but I really enjoy this movie.
I do like Grease 2.
You have to enjoy Grease 2. I mean, we have to just, yes, Taya, we see you. And I enjoyed this movie, and you can put your sunglasses on, and it is slow. And it is light, and it was from a children's story. So you're not going to have Mothra fly in or blood or whatever. You do have a naked baby, which is the only thing that bothers me is the kid's hair. It really does. I don't know why. I just wish it was shorter or something. It's something about his hair just drives me.
But the seals would not have been able to cut his hair. Right? It would have to be kind of long.
I know, but he has to be one of the dark ones, they keep saying, because he's one of the ones with dark hair. So he had to have that dark hair with that little teeny.
I mean, the seals could teach him how to make tea, but they couldn't cut his hair.
They could chew it off.
That is true. That is true.
It's true. I guess you're right.
So inaccurate. Such an inaccurate portrayal.
The truth is, they could have had SEAL Team 6.
Oh my God.
I want to go back to Mary Jane for a moment. She said, what I hated about it was the healthy Irish family. Been there. What you see is not how the Irish act. I think that is interesting. I lived in England, but I never got over to Ireland, so I didn't get to see firsthand. But who would like to sort of defend the purpose, or who would like, before we sort of go into some of the magic and some of the folklore a little bit more, who would actually like to defend? Who would like to defend it?
This was a beautiful movie. Okay, it starts very slow, and I get that, and I was sort of tuned out the first 20 or 30 minutes. It was really hard to get into. And then there's a scene where you get the story of the Selkie being sort of caught, for lack of a better term, and getting married and having children and coming to the, to live with human beings. And at that point, the movie goes up a notch, and I'm all in. This is magical. It's about a little girl seeing the world of the Fae and having belief in that world of the Fae. And because she has that belief, she gets to rescue her little brother, who is apparently named Jamie, but when she yells, she sounds like she's yelling Jimmy very, very loudly at him. But it's I thought it was great. I loved it. It was just so adorable, so cute. She's a good actress for a child. I think she does a terrific job. You kind of get the excitement that she has. You sort of get the feeling that she knows that she's on to something. And then there's also this sort of sadness to her because of everything that she's gone through. And I think that she wears all of that on her sleeve. And yes, it's slow and it's hard for some people to get into. But if you love Celtic mythology, if you love the landscapes of Ireland and Scotland, if you love Celtic music like I love Celtic music, it's easy to just get completely drawn into this film after the first 20 or 30 minutes.
I 100% agree with Jason. I loved it when it came out. I watched it because I loved listening to the Irish reels and the landscape. The landscape shots, if they were done today, and it would be great to see it redone, would be even more remarkable than they are in this screening of it now. But they're beautiful. I love the seals popping up and down. The little girl is adorable. I got absorbed in it. And Colin, this film does not have a story. It actually does have a story, but there's a lot of movies. There's these movies that I call small stories. The British filmmakers from various areas, British filmmakers, and Sayles is not a British filmmaker, he's an American filmmaker, but there's a lot of movies that come out of Scotland, Ireland, and England, I guess Wales too, maybe, but a lot of these filmmakers, they make what I call small stories, or films with small stories. They're these little, they don't have big things, they're not complex, but they're just sweet little stories that are just so well done and told and rich and have lots of meaning that you just get lost in them. And I think the British filmmakers are the best at this. And obviously Sayles is not one of them. He's not a British filmmaker, as I said, but he captured that here. He captured this tiny little story about reconnecting with your ancestral lands and your family and all these things in nature. And he just captured it and put the music in, and the kid was adorable. And it didn't need the excess. It really did a nice job. So I liked it then and I liked it now, but I do have to say my partner fell asleep halfway through. And when he woke up, I told him he missed the part where Godzilla was on the island. And then he watched the end of it hoping Godzilla would reappear. That didn't happen.
You know what I wish would have happened? I wish that I would have fallen asleep and then woken up to
The Witch of the Sea
shaving a mermaid tattoo off of their chest. That's what I wish would have happened. That would have spiced this up for me immediately.
Our producer Rob is asking, Jason, wasn't the soundtrack a huge seller? Maybe it did a second one?
I don't know if it was, because I didn't hear about this movie when it came out. I sort of doubt it was, since it didn't make much of an impact at the box office. And also, I immediately downloaded the soundtrack today after watching this movie, and I've been listening to it all day, and it's amazing, and it's so good, and it just brings me great joy. But it also feels like the soundtrack was released in 2001, which is many years after the movie came out. But the soundtrack's great, and if you like Celtic music, you'll really, really love this soundtrack. But I don't know that it was a huge seller. And Rob says it did better than the movie, which wouldn't surprise me because it's really, really well done. And there was a moment where Celtic music was a big thing.
And that is where I have to be sort of the bad guy of the film. I felt like I was in a New Age shop.
It didn't feel New Age at all to me.
I hated it. I hated the music.
You know,
I hated every second of the music. I wanted the music to just go away. I just wanted to even try to enjoy it, but I couldn't because it was always music, music, music. And it was like potato farming music. And I hated it.
The scene, okay, so I can't get past this, but the cradle floating away at like Mach 5 down away from the beach, right?
The seals had the cradle.
I understand it was ridiculous, but that reminded me of, you ever like in the 90s like fall asleep at night and then wake up and it was like that like sounds of like whatever CD they were selling, and it was like who can take whatever that song is, like that's like sounds of Enya, like that's all I can hear the whole time. Oh God. Why?
I will admit, when I watch these movies now, I watch them with this idea of what can I make fun of during the Mankey movie minute, and it overwhelms me. And early on, there's a lot of pipes in the soundtrack, and I thought that I was in a New Age shop, and I swear the smell of patchouli overtook my living room while I was not burning any incense. And I thought that I would make fun of that when I originally, was doing my stuff tonight. But then the music got better as the movie went along, and I got more into the story, and now I will not make fun of the music. But I understand where you're coming from, because in the 90s, when you listen to a lot of New Age music, you always got those pipes. And everything that was Celtic, no matter when it originated during the 90s, was always considered pagan, right? Yep. And there were a lot of people who thought things like Wicca were Celtic traditions, when they're really not Celtic traditions at all.
And and I remember back then, and so many of the groups you go to, and after rituals and stuff, and during feasts and stuff, it was Celtic music playing in the background, even if they were reels, which really weren't, well, I guess you can play those during festive stuff, but they weren't New Agey. They were just classic reels, classic Irish music,
and created long after the conversion to Christianity, I'm sure. Because I don't think the ancient Celts played fiddles. I could be wrong. Maybe someone will tell me I'm wrong in the chat, but I'm very confident in this assertion. But also, one other thing. I remember watching PBS one night and seeing Lord of the Dance. And then I had a girlfriend call me on the phone like, oh my God, Jason, the most pagan show I've ever seen is on PBS right now. And it was Lord of the Dance or River Dance or whatever, any of that stuff.
And that was at the same time. That was the 90s too.
Yeah, and that was this period. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I just have to say is that at the time, the group I was a part of all went together to go see Lord of the Dance.
No, it wasn't
Michael Flatley.
Yeah, that's right.
Riverdance and Lord of the Dance, those were two different things, right?
Yes, two different things.
Wait, can we just read this comment?
Yep.
Yes.
And then Lord of the Dance.
Taya, we had an exchange student from Ireland in middle school, and he bit a kid who bashed.
Well. Well, that kid needs to. That young man needs to come back to the United States and maybe fight Richard-Lael later. That's maybe what needs to happen.
I can't breathe.
I will start the GoFundMe to pay for his ticket here.
Well, this is I wanted to ask, Alyssa said, I would love to know why everyone thought yelling Jamie had a baby and it went too far. Jamie had a baby and a person who has only been friends with seals would stop the separation. So yes, why would she scream at seals?
I don't think the little girl had any clue. She's a little girl still, and she knows that's her little brother named Jamie. So she's just trying to call him. I don't think she knew that wasn't really going to be effective because she didn't understand English, and they didn't know who she was.
Alicia and I watched this movie together, or tried to watch this movie at the same time. So we didn't get that far. So I think what she's talking about is when the fishermen were like pretending to row after like the breaking the sound barrier cradle, and they were like, Jamie, and like, for what? Because you're not even like, put that into your rowing for no reason. They were just screaming.
Yeah. Screaming at a little baby is not going to work.
In a cradle.
I mean,
Well,
honestly, I have wanted to scream at a little baby in a cradle. So I completely understand. I get it. I completely get it.
Richard-Lael, you are on fire today.
Well, I might be after the show when I got more pitchforks. His dad called the baby too, like he could answer, says Mary Jane. Colin says, seals are highly intelligent and spiteful, LOL. This is so true. They are highly intelligent and spiteful, but they're so darn cute. I mean, you know, I used to go out in New York City. I used to go to this club called Club Seal.
Oh my God.
Okay. All right.
I used to listen to Seal.
Let's talk a little bit more. Who is more knowledgeable about silkies, about the process of turning from sort of this sea creature into a human? Who would like to talk about that? Nobody? That's okay. How about we talk about a mermaid who is a fish and then turns into a person? I like that story.
That's another movie.
I love that movie. Well, not that movie, but I love the story. I loved I liked the fact that when she traded her tail for her legs, and then she had to walk on knives. I thought that was really kind of amazing.
Yeah, that's a totally different story. But Selkies, I don't know too much about it because it's not my area, not a folklorist. But I know that they exist in a lot of different parts of the northern countries up there, because they're obviously that's where they live. Seals live there. They're seagoing folks, so they have these stories just like mermaids. I think mermaid lore comes from further south in the oceans, from my understanding. But these creatures live and I don't know all the stories, but they live in the ocean, and they when they come out, they shed their skins to bask in the sun and relax. And if you steal the skin, you own the Selkie, just like what it says in the story is one of the, but there's many different stories and they're throughout. But I don't know enough about folklore to give, but there's tons of stories from that whole northern region.
All I have to say in that is, merman pup, merman, water is the essence of wet, and wet is the essence of moisture. And moisture is the beauty.
That was
amazing. Amazing is the right word for that.
I mean, it's around the same time.
Yeah.
Zoolander was what, like 96? This was 94, so it's right around the same time.
Is this a TV? Is this a live stream for ants? Sorry, that's the.
They have to be like 10 times as big.
I'm suing Richard-Lael for emotional distress. Me too. I was trying to be real nice because me and Richard-Lael are on the same team tonight, but the thing that almost just forcibly came out of my mouth was that was as traumatizing as watching the Silkie be birthed from the seal skin.
It was Zoolander.
I love Zoolander. That was a lot. I love you.
When we do the live show, we're gonna do something where Richard-Lael is Zoolander and I'm Hansel, and that's just what we're gonna do. It'll be like a 3 or 4 minute little bit that we do, and it will be amazing.
And I will put my sunglasses on.
I promise. Buy your tickets now.
You do have his hair. You do have his hair. So I
I'm a
think
huge Owen Wilson fan.
I'm a model.
Can we just talk about the naked baby for a while? Because that was the most unsettling part of this film, was the naked child in the cradle the entire way through. And if there is a weak link in this movie, which I know Courtney and Richard-Lael think there are many weak links, it is the baby naked running around and stuff. And scared to death of his sister. It's very unsettling, and I might have some nightmares from it.
It is unsettling that they would have a naked baby. On the other hand, he's a baby, so he doesn't need to wear clothes. And clearly they didn't row as quickly as they could to get him back. So if they already think that they want to get rid of him, why put clothes on him? Save you some money. I mean,
I'm just going to say that judging by how stuck in my brain, I didn't even get to the naked baby. Thank all of the gods and goddesses. I did not. But judging by how impactful the speeding baby was in the cradle for me, like this baby was problematic the whole time. He was just problematic all throughout.
I also was the baby was and it wasn't until the baby was seen running across the field naked and with the dark black curly hair that I was like, that seemed very jarring to me. That was the only part that I said, okay, they could have done something a little different with that. It's the only part that bothered me. And he would go speeding off with his little nude self and his hair flowing in the wind. But he would not be able to talk. He wouldn't have clothes. He was raised by seals. So,
but he learned how to have tea from the seals, which will always bother me. Because there's a scene where he's in like an abandoned house having lunch and tea with a seal, like you do. That's what I did yesterday afternoon. And like, how did he acquire that skill?
Because he was raised to change into human form and might have taught him. I could buy that one, but what about him? They pick up right at the end when they come back to the house. He picks up a whalebone, a giant whalebone. I don't know if you remember. He goes, "What's this?" And a whalebone. And the little girl says, "Jamie brought that in here. The whalebone was bigger than the baby. How did Jamie drag the whalebone into the house?"
Listen, this baby just defies the laws of physics. Okay, first of all, he travels at Mach 5 in his little cradle. Then he's just lifting things that are too big for him. Like he's the villain.
There's a lot of
fairness,
the baby is the villain.
The cradle is magical. There were certain rules that had to be followed to build the cradle. So it is not like they just bought the cradle at IKEA on a trip to Sweden. It is a magical cradle.
Oh God, there it is.
The fact that it can, So that maybe makes sense if you look at it that way.
Well, also he was raised by seals. He was not raised by wolves. So clearly he would be sophisticated.
There we go. There it is.
He would drink some.
Solved it.
With that, why don't we go over to Ms. Courtney Buckley, who I'm certain has some rousing quotes.
I have quotes. There's not a lot of them because I didn't get that far, but I have them. The first one was, I saw this and I was like, wow, okay, we're in for it. Buckle up. Because the little girl is in the bar and the dad is like, I'm doing the best I can. And then whoever's behind the bar is like, why don't you send her to live with her grandparents? You'd like that. And then she goes, you'd like that, living with old people. I was like, nice. I forget what they were talking about, but they said, then he slept like a Christian for hours and hours. Then the screaming of the baby's name as it was breaking the sound barrier. And they even talked about it. He said, I don't know how the cradle made up so much speed. I understand. I get
Magic
it.
Cradle. Magic Cradle. We've explained this.
But explain it to them because they also questioned why it was so fast.
They didn't know at the time.
Then they said, you can tell by my quotes that I'm traumatized. Little Jamie sailing the seas in his cradle boat. And then when they're going and they're in the boat and they're going to the island and she sees the seals and she's yelling and he goes, you scared them away with all your screeching. And then I am traumatized by the seal birthing the woman from his skin, and then that was it. That's what I have. But
you missed the part where the baby Jamie is bigger, as we've described him, and he's in his boat speeding away.
That's I don't think bigger baby. I don't think I could handle it.
And he's holding on to the top part, like it's like
stop.
Yeah. Those are some of the best parts. The little naked kid is running away and she's yelling what I swear sounded like Jimmy, and like He's just going like at the speed of sound. Like I've never seen a child run so fast in my whole life.
All right, I'm looking
You
up to
should
see
just-
if I can find. Ah!
Yes, it's great. It's great.
It is. And I can buy it because the cradle is magic, like Jason said, and the seals push him along and take care of him. They can turn into their human form and teach him how to drink tea, and maybe they're the ones that brought the whalebone up to the house. I can buy it all. I have no problem with it. He's a little jarring looking because of his dark hair and his very light skin and his naked little body running through the field, but it's not enough not to like this.
I found another one. Oh my god, there's so. Ah! Okay, well, I'm glad I missed this because this is so much.
Jason Meyer says, I watch this at least once a year. I love the simplicity and the slow pace. The music and the scenery is soothing to me, and the Celtic folklore keeps me engaged every time. Then again, I was rocking Enigma and Deep Forest today. No seal, though, surprisingly.
Jason.
So Jason
Yeah.
Myers is one of the coolest people that has ever watched the show, and is in the band Icarus Witch, which is a great witchy rock band, heavy metal band, that he's watching the show and he likes this movie. Says to me that the other two of you should like this film with Heather and I.
Well, Jason, while you're there, I bet you have a remarkable, an incredible Mankey movie minute, and I'm certain it's going to be so funny, and then you're going to surprise us because you're going to make fun of all of the things that Courtney and I made fun of.
Actually, I do not have a Mankey movie minute in the traditional sense tonight. What I have is a poem that I wrote about this film. It's called I Wish I Could Be, a poem by Jason Mankey.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. I wish I could be a magical seal. I would eat raw fish at every meal. Free to swim whenever in the cold blue sea. I would not have to go anywhere just to pee. I could also poop wherever I like. You know, a trip to the bathroom is quite a hike. I could shed my skin while laying in the sun, and then perhaps I could have sex with a nun. I wish I could be a girl of 8 years old. I would never do a thing that I was told. Summers, days spent adrift in granddad's boat. My family yelling until they hurt their throats. My days spent fixing houses and repairing thatch, using hammer, saw, and nail, but never a scratch. I would talk to strange, weird men gutting fish and share with them my dearest wish. Child custody would take my grandparents away, but that's okay. More time to go out and play. I wish I could be a lost 4-year-old boy. I would run around naked with perpetual joy. I would seek adventure in my cradle boat, knowing that on the waves it will always float. I would learn that all there is to know from seals, and my flippered friends would prepare my meals. With the seals I could lunch and afternoon tea. Such a life makes sense for a naked baby such as me. And when my sister might yell out my name, I would run. I wouldn't want to play her game.
Yay!
That was really well done. You should write, Jason. Have you ever considered writing? I think
This just seems like a lot of work, and I hear those Llewellyn editors are a real pain in the ass.
And I've heard they are very, very demanding.
Yes, it's frustrating.
I think before we vote on tonight's movie, we should let it out of the bag what we are watching next week. And I'm going to give you a hint. I'll give a hint, and then we'll go around in a corner, and we'll all give a hint, and we won't say what it is. We'll give a hint. I'm going to start by lighting the fire. Who's that?
People are strange.
Yes, they are very.
I don't know anything about it, so I can't contribute to this.
I am the Lizard King. I can do anything.
That is right. We are opening the doors.
Oh, so
Yes,
excited
next week
about next week's movie.
we are next week watching The Doors.
The Doors.
With this is the one with Val Kilmer in it.
Val
yes.
Kilmer.
And
Yep.
this Val Kilmer's film, The Doors, and it is based on Jim Morrison. So the life and times of the Lizard King himself, Jim Morrison. I think now we should go ahead and vote on tonight's movie, though. And I'm going to vote last. Rob wants to know, are we dressing up? Who wants to dress up next week? Well, I might be. Who knows? We might be. Three of us
I mean,
might
could you see me in leather pants? I'm sitting down the whole show. What's the point?
Is this movie from the 70s? Because we're gonna be lucky if I show up at all.
No,
No.
90s.
But
all right.
but
I'll give it a shot then.
it's actually you. I think you'll like it. I mean, I'm not. I mean, I am a psychic, but I think you'll like it. It's not actually from the 70s, but Jim Morrison was from the 70s. So there's a lot of, and it's filmed
Mostly
in
the Doors' heyday was in the 60s.
60s.
Jim
Mhm.
died in the early 70s. You're gonna love this movie. It's one of my favorites. But we should
And
get
and
back
the
to our
music
current movie.
is so good. You are going. I mean, I don't know anything about this movie. Maybe you'll like it. I don't know. Anyway, let us vote about tonight's movie. I'm going to vote last. So we have Heather up, we have Jason up, we have Courtney down, we have Taya ones up. We have anybody else in there with their ones up or down? Let us know, because my wand is.
Yes.
I had you.
Oh.
I had you thought I was gonna be a flip switcher, but I was not. I'm actually that's kind of cruel. The film is actually more here. It's not the worst, but it's like pushing on empty for me.
I would also like to share while we're voting with everybody in the chat, because some people asked for the picture of the baby in the boat. I just posted it on my Facebook. So look me up on Facebook, and there's the offending baby.
The one when he's older.
Yes, in the boat.
Where he's like the speedboat.
I-
holding on.
Or he's
I
holding
picked-
on.
Yeah, I picked the least offensive one, the one that's not going to get my account blocked. So some of them are
You know,
blocked. on Google.
what is up with this? What is up with this show when people can give wands up to some of the cheesiest, most terrible movies ever made, like The Killing Tree, and we're giving a wand down to a beautiful film that touches the heartstrings and makes you believe that magic is real.
Jason Mankey, so help me. I was nice to you just because I appreciated your thoughts on I can't even talk, I'm so bad. I appreciated your opinion. I didn't make fun of it once. I only talked about how traumatized I was by the baby in the boat. How dare you bring The Killing Tree into this, as we know that is a cinematic masterpiece. And no one was getting hexed tonight, and now it's too late. Now I know what I'm doing when I get off of here. I was gonna stream video games, and it's too late. Now you're getting hexed.
It just feels like that's a part of the show now, where Jason gets hexed at the end of every episode, and it is what it is. I got witch bottles around the house. I'm gonna be fine.
We have to have the vote of the. We have to have the guessing right before the show starts. Is Jason gonna get hexed this show?
He will if he tries so hard.
Votes.
Yeah.
So we have just a few minutes before we are to let go for the evening. Who has anything coming up? Heather, what is going on in your world?
3 weeks out, Mystic South, coming up the end of July, and July's 26th, 27th, 28th in Atlanta. Come out and join us there. I'm going to be doing 2 workshops, and I'm on the board, so I help run it. I run the event, so I'm quite busy when I'm there. But I know I see some people in the chat who will be there, so I look forward to seeing everybody. I'm doing a workshop on dolls and haunted dolls and puppets, as well as what does the word witch mean. And so I will be doing those 2 workshops, and then have a little break, and then I head to Charlotte for Charles Oz. Really looking forward to that. That's 4 days of everything Wizard of Oz you can imagine, from the movies to the musicals to the books to everything. And I will be doing a talk on the Wicked Witch and Glinda in film.
Now, you said you were going to be talking about what word means?
Witch.
What word?
Which witch?
Witch.
Was which?
Who's on first?
Which witch am I talking about? Yeah. Who's on second? What's on third? I don't know who's on third. I don't remember. Yes, I will be figuring out which witch is which.
I love it. Mr. Mankey, do you have anything coming up?
I
Yes,
do
I'm the
not.
princess of
I'm at
advice.
home this summer. I'm really excited about it. I'm just
So
like fighting off Courtney's hexes.
How can people find you if they want to send you something to make certain that you are counteracting all of Courtney's hexes? How can people find you?
On most social feeds, I am at Pan Mankey, or you can just Google Jason Mankey. There are three other Jason Mankeys in the world, one of whom is a Christian preacher, but I come up first because of the power of witchcraft and the power of Skeletor. All hail Skeletor.
I saw, normally I don't share the memes as much but I saw a meme today that had Skeletor on it, and it had him in his signature evil laugh, which we're all going to do in a moment. And it said, when someone calls you gay, but secretly you actually are. I love Skeletor. He was my favorite. In the satanic panic of the 80s, I did not get to enjoy watching He-Man very much because it was evil. But that's another story for another day. Ms. Courtney Buckley, what is happening in your world?
That's me. I'm going to be performing Upkeep on my bangs and hexing Jason Mankey and possibly streaming some horror video games if you want to come play along on Twitch. So that I am at the themes on all the things. And I've posted the naked baby on my Facebook, so you can find me there, Courtney Buckley. I'm pretty easy to find. And then hopefully we got some Scared and Alones coming up.
We might have some Scared and Alones coming up. I hear our producers are working on Scared and Alone.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, speaking of Scared and Alone, you can go to mysterycontrol.com and you can find some beautiful wares. You can find Mankey shoes, is it?
Browitch materials. Woo!
Find pillows and housewares. You can find Heather Greene. We have quotations. I didn't mind it. So all kinds of lights, camera, witchcraft we have right there if you go over to Mystery Control. And I am Richard-Lael Lillard. Richard-Lael is, of course, one name. If I were just Richard, I would be a... With that, I am at thegentlemanpsychic.com. I am on Facebook under Richard-Lael Lillard. I am on Instagram under The Gentleman Psychic or Richard-Lael Lillard or the Parlor of the Gentleman Psychic. And I teach at University Magicus usually every Saturday. So if you are interested in real life magic, Patty Negri teaches there, Father Sebastian teaches there. Some of these people that you may or may not know, we are there on Saturday. So you can find us at universitymagicus.org, I believe is what it is. And there is Miss Patty Negri live at her book signing at Barnes and Noble. She has her book coming out, and we are so very proud of our Miss Patty Negri. And again, next week's movie is The Doors. This is a film that, if you never watch another film that we have put out for you to see, we want you to watch this film. Actually, we want you to watch every film, but next week we want you to really watch this one because...
Not this week.
This coming week. Not this
Not
week.
this past week.
Not
we
this
didn't want you to watch that one. You and me.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Heather and I did.
I mean, to be fair, Courtney, to be fair, we didn't even finish it, and I tried.
We didn't watch it.
I tried to watch the film 4 times. I put it on. I was like, oh, I can't even get into it. And then I came back and I was like, okay, I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to do. And I did it 4 times. And finally, I got to the point where it was nearing the end. I think I had 20 minutes left, and I went, I just cannot finish this movie. I'm not in the headspace. But with that, we have just a few more seconds. And in those seconds, we are going to do what all witches do. Hex Jason. I mean,
oh,
No, we are going to cackle. You at home,
Or Hex
everyone
Jason,
you're
that's fine
out
too.
there, you're all going to cackle together. Raise the roof and cackle with us. And here we go.